Welcome back. And if you haven't seen Silo Season 3, Episode 4, titled Whatever You Do, Don't Come Home, then go ahead and hit pause and come back later after you've watched the episode. But please make sure you put me in your watch for later. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can keep up with all the breakdowns for this season. So with all that being said, that is your official spoiler warning. We're going to go ahead and dig into this episode because we got a lot of interesting things here in Episode 4. They definitely flipped the board on us this week because on one side we have a political rebellion sort of happening. And in the present timeline, we have a full-blown conspiracy. And let me tell you, I have no clue who's working for who and who's telling the truth. And in the silo, everything is all twisted up right now. For example, we watched this man literally get choked out this season. But now he's just casually coughing and he's surviving behind a curtain inside of a tent down in the digger void. And of course, I am talking about Bernard. Bernard is alive. And can you guys believe that Bernard is alive? I guess we kind of can because his name has popped up in the title cards every single week. But I just thought it was going to be flashbacks. But nope, they brought Bernard back full on alive. So he is not dead. He is not barbecued and cremated. And it tells us that the algorithm and Camille's top enforcer, Robert Sims, hasn't just been playing enforcer. It also seems like while playing enforcer, he's running a massive shadow coup right up under his wife's nose. So stick around. We're going to break down the entire ending, the hidden gems, and who really murdered Orla Kent. Because I have some theories on that as well, because I believe everything is going to come to a head very, very soon. So let's go ahead and untangle this mess of an episode, because when we sit back and strip away all the filler for the episode, and it wasn't a lot, but there was definitely some, we see all the major narratives that have been playing out have actually moved forward a bit. Let's start by talking about the infirmary escape and the unmasking of Nurse Amy, because up until now, we thought Amy was working with the algorithm and Camille, and she was just their pawn and doing anything that they told her to do. But we find out when Camille calls down and orders Juliette to be sedated, that Amy completely flips the script. She jabs the guard Emerson in the neck with the syringe that I thought she was going for Juliette with. And right before she gets choked out, Emerson falls to the ground and she grabs Juliette. And of course, Juliette's a little hesitant because she probably thinks that Amy isn't on her side either. And at this moment, I didn't know what the hell to think. But Amy eventually sneaks Juliette out through the back, and she reveals to her that she's been working for somebody this entire time, and that whoever gave her that order, they basically order her to give fake versions of the sleepy pills. And while Juliette was spitting the sleepy pills out, even if she would have been taking them in this scenario, she still would have got her memories back because Nurse Amy was helping somebody else all along. But long story short, she eventually sends Juliette down to Pump Room 76 to meet none other than Sims. And that's our big reveal. Sims, this entire time, has been working in the shadows behind his wife's back, may I add. And he has been the one orchestrating Juliette getting her memory back. And remember, all the way back in episode 1, well, I guess it wasn't that long ago, but remember back in episode 1 when Sims told Juliette to her face, he hopes that she gets her memories back. And I thought that was a throwaway line then and him being an asshole, but now it turns out he probably actually meant that. But before Sims could even say one word to Juliette, Shirley bursts in the room and snatches Juliette out, knocks the door handle off, leaving him there. And they're going to be making their way down to the down deep. Now, once Juliette reaches the down deep, she sees Bernard, and we'll touch a little bit more on that in 1 second. But before we do, our second big narrative point that was fleshed out a little bit more in this episode was in 2049 with Helen and Daniel. And we see them now basically going completely off grid, or at least they think they are. Because after realizing that Steve the hacker was abducted and his place was ransacked, Helen decides to smash their cell phones and, basically go unsurveilled to hide out and regroup. So the big plan that they come up with while trying to hide out and regroup was to go talk to Daniel's friend Sam. But after they finish talking to Sam, because Sam doesn't at the time seem interested in what they have going on, we see them approached by this mysterious guy. Now, it's the same mysterious guy that just happened to be at Helen's job when she got fired. And we know this is the same guy that was at the funeral when Daniel was there as well. So after offering them coffee and taking them to somewhere to have a sit-down meeting, he basically tells them that he has an offer. He offers Helen a position at the New York Times, telling her that he knows the editor and all it takes is one phone call. And for Daniel, he doesn't really have an offer. He just wants him to know that, hey, we're taking care of your sister's medical bills, so stop messing with us. Now, as we see, Helen eventually lets the weight of everything make her cave in, and she kind of just goes off into a little bit of hiding. And Daniel, with no running mate now, he goes back to work. But while he's at work, he gets a mysterious phone call from his friend Sam, telling him that, you know what happened to your sister just didn't sit right with me, and I gotta let you know what's going on. And the big reveal there was The planes were not being controlled by the pilots. They were being controlled by something else. Now, what is that something else? I don't know. I'm sure it has to do with that gray goo that was over everything, because it didn't come out of nowhere. And it's clearly doing something to the equipment, because why did they want to strip the plane of all of its technology anyways and fly in there basically analog, and they still got the planes taken over? Did the people who ordered this mission know what was going to happen, and this was just another attempt at trying to get through this cloud or whatever it is? And what took control of those jets? Because we didn't see another person. We don't see some alien species, and I don't think it's that anyways. So what took over those? What is that gray goo? So after Daniel tells Helen what happened in his phone call, they basically hit the road in a minivan, and now they're off to uncover the mystery even further. Now, in my opinion, I think this shifts the entire Before Times timeline from a simple cover-up into a full-blown road automated threat investigation. A third thing that happens in this episode is actually pretty important, because Sheriff Billings is hot on the tail of finding out who may have murdered Orla. Because in this episode, the coroner basically confirms, and we already kind of knew this anyways, she didn't die in the rat poison. Somebody hit her in the back of the head with some rebar. So this immediately tells us that she was murdered and placed there to never be found again. But we see in the episode when Paul goes down to Supply to investigate, one, he doesn't tell anybody that he knows that Orla's dead and that he found her. He plays it as he's still just doing his investigation. You know, he's asking questions, trying to find the person that nobody seems to care that is missing. You know, he talks to her boyfriend, Mike Davison, and he's just chilling with his dog and doing his own thing. And he just seems the least bit worried about her missing, because she just does this from time to time. Not even her family knows that she does this. And it's a little bit perplexing from a new boyfriend, but maybe they have previous history. And then to make matters a little bit weirder, Glenda is just in the office pretending like she's running Supply. And oh, by the way, this is also Mike's ex-girlfriend, even though she says she was never a girlfriend, and Mike's just like think that everybody likes him. So whatever that means. But the real thing to uncover here is, why is she the one running Supply after the person that is supposed to be running Supply has been missing, in her own words, for 2 days? And you just pick up and just take over because you're the most qualified? Okay, sure, I'll buy it, but I don't buy it. So I think this murder investigation is going to be the linchpin in this season, and it's going to prove that Supply and more than likely Judicial have been working to smuggle something, and it's probably that vitamin D plus, because we all remember from previous episodes that this is the algorithm's backup plan to poison the water supply. And what if Orla caught wind of that or figured it out in some type of way, because she is running Supply, so she is going to have to probably come across these containers containing vitamin D plus, and you know, what is that? So I'm sure she probably did some digging, or maybe she didn't. But either way, whatever she found or didn't find got her killed. So she obviously found something. But I think ultimately this investigation is going to lead to Sheriff Billings questioning the pack. Not that he's not doing that already, but this investigation is going to be what breaks the camel's back in this situation. Now, just to talk about our key players this week in this episode, let's go ahead and talk about Robert Sims a little bit. Because if anybody's playing some 4D chess right now, it is that guy. Because in my opinion, he is probably the absolute MVP of the show right now, because the way he has been orchestrating and behind the scenes, doing all these major things while it seems like he's done nothing at all, has been very impressive. And the fact that for 3 seasons, like I mentioned in another video, he seemed like this robotic guy who just followed orders and did what he was told is clearly just a bluff that he pulls off, because he does have a mind and he clearly does things that he wants to do on his own terms. But in this situation, Sims has clearly been playing the ultimate long con game. We watched him choke Bernard. We thought we watched Bernard get cremated, so there's obviously other people helping him, because he's not pulling all of this off by himself. And somehow he managed to fake all of that and stash Bernard in the Digger Void. Now, I'm sure he had help doing that as well, because I'm pretty sure the Digger Void was supposed to be closed off and sealed up, but clearly it's not. And clearly whoever told that story is helping Sims as well. And we also find out that he is the one who basically suggested that Nurse Amy be the nurse. And we checked her out. Everything seemed good. She was trustworthy up until now. And yeah, she pretty much got burned. And I guess she knew what she was risking. And I'm sure he's going to probably try to get her out of that situation too, because she's clearly useful. But Look at how smoothly he's operating right up under Camille's nose. All before it seemed like he may be a little bit down, he may be out, he wasn't the same Sims, and he seemed like he had some emotions, but while he may have all of that, and his motivations are clearly triggered by his son, because that's why he's doing all of this, to save his son. But when Camille told him to arrange for an interim mayor because they were going to get rid of Juliette, it's funny now after watching how he just effortlessly asked, "Hey, babe, I'll come help you along with this. You don't have to do this by yourself. I'll take care of it." He doesn't want her to carry the weight of everything alone. And it was a cold-blooded, brilliant cover-up, in my opinion. Sims clearly isn't trying to save the algorithm. And he may even still be a little bit butthurt because the algorithm chose Camille over him. And maybe that's part of his motivation for this as well. But that vitamin D plus clearly terrifies him. And him being in a world where his son doesn't remember him, that's not one that he wants to live in, clearly. But hold up, before we go any further, let's talk about Daniel and Helen in the 24/9 timeline for 1 second, because I just had something come to my mind. I think in the last episode, I mentioned that Daniel has terrible survival instincts. And now Helen Drew apparently has bad instincts too, because we know both of them are being actively tracked down by the government, or at least some highly skilled shadow part of the government. The hacker guy that they knew named Steve has been abducted and may even be working for these guys now. And on top of all that, you have no communication because you just smashed your cell phone so you wouldn't get assassinated, or so you thought. But the grand tactical play, and I mentioned this earlier, that they went to go stay at Helen's ex place. This is your plan, to go stay at your ex's place because he's out of town on a mission in South Sudan. And this is the place where nobody's going to find you. Like the shadow government especially don't know all of your history and the things that you've done, and think that you don't, and think that they may not know. I'm sure they know. So I'm sure, especially in this situation, that if they really wanted to find you at your ex's place, they could, because it's a terrible place to hide. Why would you go there? It's not even a really good safe house. And then on top of all of that, you're in your ex's place and you have this awkward romantic tension with Daniel. It's just weird. It is crazy. It makes absolutely no sense. And this is probably the weirdest and craziest thing that happened in the episode. And why did they put this in there? Because they make these people look incompetent, if anything. So I just think Daniel and Helen in this situation just need to get it together, because at the current trajectory, I am not sure how both of these people even made it to the silos, if they do. Well, Daniel more than likely will, but Helen, if you keep going down this road, I don't know if you're going to make it to the silos. We'll see how it plays out. While we're on them, let's go ahead and break down some of these breadcrumbs in this episode, because the writers left some things in there for us to pick up on. And one of the big things in this episode was clearly communication, and how people are communicating without necessarily communicating. Because as we saw last week in the episode, when they went to go see the hacker, he was playing chess. And we all knew that when he moved his piece, he was sending a signal to who? He was sending a signal to whoever he was playing with. Now, it took them a little bit longer to figure that out, but we knew that last week. But the big clue here in the Easter eggs here are the references to everything else. The Edward Snowden of it all, and revealing how government agencies use games like World of Warcraft to hide spy communication. And then you think about that, and then you look at the screen names that we saw last week and the ones that were referenced this week. X-File 1013, which is pretty obvious nod. And then the person that he's playing against is Bigfoot Lives. Thought that was pretty funny. And I'm sure there's more foreshadowing in there too as well. But the biggest thing I want to move to are those utility closets and those secret hatches that Amy and Juliette used. Because I don't know about you guys, but it's interesting to me how all of these blown out walls and hatches and secret doors are just appearing everywhere all of a sudden. Where the hell did they come from? Like, we literally have hidden stairwells hidden behind bathroom tiles. And who put this stuff here? Well, I mean, not put it there, but who carved out these tunnels? How long ago were they done? We heard references to secret tunnels and stuff like that earlier, but I thought they were talking about things that may go to the different silos. I didn't know that they could be referencing secret tunnels built inside the silo to navigate different portions of it. And to think they've been doing all of this right up under the nose of a 352-year-old supercomputer who just happens to be very, very paranoid about stuff like this, and the algorithm has no damn clue. It's actually pretty brilliant. But before we do anything else, let's go ahead and break down that final frame and talk about that big elephant in the room. So we know that Shirley helps Juliette escape down to the digger void, like we said. She goes down, and she's been down there before, and she's obviously having some familiar feelings. But once she gets down, she sees a place kind of lit up, and she sees a tent down there with a curtain on it. She pulls the curtain back, and there's a guy sitting there coughing, and it's none other than Bernard, the guy that we thought was burnt to a crisp, choked out, and cremated earlier in this season. Now, why is this happening? I honestly think it's pretty obvious when you sit back and take a look at it and put all the clues on the table. Sims cares about his son a lot, and he will risk anything for it, and he will do anything not to take that vitamin D plus so his son can remember him, obviously, and to make sure that his family is safe. And then we have Bernard, who didn't die and knows about the safeguard. Who else knows about the safeguard? Juliette knows about the safeguard. Put Bernard and Juliette together, and what can you do? Probably shut down the safeguard, because Bernard has the keys to the kingdom. He has access to the codes to get Juliette to the safeguard lever so she can shut it down. She has the mechanical genius to do it. So they're honestly the perfect team, or the perfect odd couple. And I'm sure they're going to have some moments once the memories start to come back a little bit, but she doesn't remember him right now, at least not in this moment. So it wasn't just Sims that came up with this plan to rid Juliette of the pills. It was obviously with the help of Bernard. And they have been orchestrating all of this behind the scenes this entire time. And I'm pretty sure it's all to shut down the safeguards so they can move about this silo and not have to worry about the algorithm killing them anytime it wants to. And I guess they still have to worry about the vitamin D plus, but one problem at a time. So now the board is pretty much officially set for maybe a war next week in episode 5, but definitely maybe a little battle. Juliette and Bernard's reunion is going to be very, very interesting, especially if she starts to get some flashbacks and remember who he is. She's probably not going to trust him very much, but probably need to trust him a little bit, because I'm sure he helped you escape and getting killed. And especially if some of her memories start to come back and she remembers the why she came back, because that was a big question in the first couple of episodes. Why did I come back? I was supposed to do something. So once she actually remembers what she was supposed to do, and that was to come back and save everybody and shut down the safeguard because Solo told her how to do it, I'm sure her and Bernard will come to some type of middle ground and work together to get this thing done. Meanwhile, we have Paul Billings, who is clearly on a direct collision course with Supply and maybe even Judicial, because once he realizes that somebody in one of these departments, if not both, is covering up this murder of Orla Kent, I think this is going to be the thing that finally breaks him. And you know what? He's going to be done with this shit, and he's going to, probably pretend like some of the others do, but he's probably going to go full blown outsider at this point, and maybe even do a little bit of what Sims is doing. And you know what? Maybe him and Sims could be the bad boys of the silo. But I want to leave all you guys with this highly debatable question before we get out of here. Who do you think actually hit Orla in the head with the rebar? Was it Glenda trying to reclaim her position as the head of Supply? That could be really easy. Maybe it's her daddy, because he wasn't too happy about his daughter losing that job in Supply. Or maybe it's Mike, the boyfriend who doesn't seem to really care that she's missing, and he's definitely just kind of going on as business as usual. So let me know who you think the prime suspect is down in the comments. And before we get out of here, please don't forget to like and subscribe again. If you already haven't, I truly appreciate it. It lets me know to keep bringing you videos just like this. Let me know what you think about everything after you have seen, or if you've already seen episode 4 of Silo. And also, please hype this video. I'm not sure what the hype does, but I appreciate you hyping this video and getting us out to more people. And I will see you all in the next video. This was a great episode. I'm looking forward to episode 5. And thank you again. Good night or good day.